Hey everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Death in Cambodia, Life in America, a podcast where I sit down with my father, Robert Chow, a survivor of one of the biggest genocides in modern history, the Khmer Rouge. He escaped to America with $10 in his pocket and built a distributing company, one of the largest donut distributors in the US. How exactly did a poor, starving boy from Cambodia build an empire and achieve his American dream? I'm Dorothy, his daughter, and your host for today's episode. Let's dive in. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Death in Cambodia, Life in America. Today, we have Robert here, and we are actually going to do a little bit of time travel today. We're going to take it back in the process of Robert climbing up the Northern California, traveling out of state, and moving back, and chasing Church's Chicken. And there was another avenue that he was also spending some time on. This is the very start of B&H Bakery Distributors.
Good morning. Hello.
When did you first hear about B&H and who started it?
B&H stand for Bun Ta Ho. He's my best friend. He my classmate when we were little. Went to school together in Cambodia. So when the Khmer Rouge took over, he didn't cut in Khmer Rouge's time. He left Cambodian before Khmer Rouge took over. So he got to United States early than me. He didn't went through the hard time.
Right.
So he speak very fluent English, and of course because he got here was young. Around 1980, I said. I'm not sure the year really exactly. He starting B&H distributor.
B&H, for everybody, this is a company that distributes bakery and donut ingredients to donut shops. So when you think about all these different people coming in, the refugees storming into California and starting these donut shops and the big influx of donut shops opening, you think about what the items they need. So that would be the donut mix, that would be icing, that would be boxes you need to fold, to put the donuts in, all the ingredients you would need, all the things you would need to run a donut shop. So this is what B&H is and what he wanted to start.
Yeah, he will start very small, and then that's what probably rent a space in Santa Ana, I believe, with 3,000 square foot, to just selling not a complete line at the time, maybe just paper goods, some of the flour, sugar, shortening, the item that a small item, and then later on, I believe he got the contract with called Wesco. Wesco was the independent manufacturer for all mixes, for donut mixes, so bakery mixes and all at the time.
Right. Did you ever get a chance to talk to him and really ask him why he really started it?
Yeah, I was, earlier I mentioned, when I was working with my uncle called Rose Donuts in Diamond Bar, Southern California. And he heard me that I'm here in California, so he would stop by, and pick me up, and we went to have lunch with his sport car. It's a Nissan 300. I was so exciting, and we had a good talk at that day. And then he mentioned and invited me to invest in his company, B&H. At that time, it was very small. I said, how can I invest? I had even no money to afford one donut shop.
This was a long, long time ago. Yeah, the very beginning.
Yeah, very beginning. So, but I was really interesting. And then we call each other almost every week. And then I start pay attention on his business too. And then after I have 2 store, which is the second stores in called Frontiers in San Dimas, I had some money, so I invest with him. I said, hey, here's whatever the percentage you want to give me, because I trust him. I we know him for since the childhood. So
Right.
and I just invest in silent partner with him, and
All throughout the times that
all
you
throughout
were...
the time. And then I stop by, when I have time, I I go over there and just try to study, try to look at the operation and all of that.
At that time,
he was one man's band too. I mean, and cannot afford to hire too many employee.
Right. But the motivator behind all this, again, I think, is just because we see so many Cambodians coming in at that time, 1980 to 1985. All the refugees coming in, and they were all doing donut shops. That was
right. I think about I think probably a lot of people heard about the Donut King when he got out from Windshield, and he built a lot of donut shop for Cambodian refugee.
Right.
And then so I think he see the potential. Maybe this is gonna be big instead of just buy supply from one company. So I think he got a really, really good idea.
Right.
And that's how he started. That's
Right.
how he started B&H.
You were, throughout the time, you were a silent partner pretty early on. And then when you were kind of going up 99, you were still a silent partner at the time?
Yes,
Okay.
I still. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. But I think, sometimes he need money. I mean, of course, the distributor, when the sales up and you need capital to add the inventory.
Right.
Yeah. I've been a silent partner all the way up until I believe it's 1990, between 1990 to 93. After I met him, a couple years later, probably around maybe 1986, 87, 88, somewhere around there. And then he pulled in one other partner. And this partner owned a donut shop too, maybe
Right.
1 or 2 donut shop. And he was interested in, in that business. So Bun, I call him Alo. So my friend said, okay, it's fine. So he sold 25% to the new partner. He asked me, is it okay? I said, that's fine. I have no problem.
Right.
Because I was so busy, I mean, on
Building
donut shop.
Yeah.
So I think, he came in, operate about, they operate together about 2 or 3 years somewhere. So, and then they had an idea. I had an idea because I met them, 3 of us, and I said, why not just go ahead and open, one up north so we can take over the whole state of California.
Was he doing well in
Oh yeah. I
Southern
think
California?
it's growing so much because I think because at that time we had Vesco. We sell Vesco's mix. Only Vesco.
Okay, I know that the names are now starting to get a little jumbled here. So Wesco, especially if you didn't grow up in the donut industry, which I really don't assume that you guys all are, but if you guys weren't, there's basically this big brand called Wesco, which is currently owned by our competitor Bakemark. We will get to that point a little bit later, but back in the day, Wesco was privately owned, a small manufacturer that basically manufactured the donut mixes that all of the donut shops like to use even to this day. So back then, when my dad and his partners were running B&H at the time, they had solid contracts with this small manufacturer called Wesco that really backed them up and helped them grow.
And all the makers from Wesco, and all the new shop that popping out like mushroom, like crazy. I think you're talking about new store, maybe 20 store each month. Wow. Every month, 20, 30, it's just popping out every single corner in Southern California.
Right.
So I think, because of all of these Cambodian refugee and operate donut shop at the time, most of them not speak a word of English. So I think,
So yeah, they did pretty well in Southern California.
yeah, they're growing bigger and bigger. Then they bought a warehouse. I believe it's like around after 4 or 5 years later, they bought a warehouse together with the partner, with the new partner that owned 25%. So then they decide to open one in Hayward, Northern California. So
and at that time, where were you?
I was still in Southern California, and then after that, I think they opened, and Bun operate the one up north in Hayward, B&H Hayward, and the other partner operate down south. They both still control 2 locations.
What was their goal at the time? Was to really control all of California,
right? To spread it out, and so they're doing really well in Southern California, and then there's a lot of donut shop popping out all over the state now. You're starting from Bakersfield up to the borders of Oregon. Every single shop is all Cambodian, keep popping out, buying out the local mom and pop donut shop.
And I think what's happening is that Southern California got so concentrated that everyone's just moving north now. And now as it started in Southern California, now it's spreading to north. Even after you had built those shops, there were more coming in.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's more. I mean, one person cannot build catch up with all the people that want the donut shop business.
Right.
No. So it was a great idea. It was a great plan. But after a couple of years, he didn't like it, fly back and forth, stay in Hayward for 3, 4 days, 5 days, and go back home. Is getting tired. And then he was married and had 3 kids at the time, and it was tough.
Yeah, he didn't have other donut shops to run at that time, did he? Or was B&H his focus at that point?
At that point, he only focused on B&H.
I see. And B&H. Okay.
Yeah, but then the partner is still running donut shop, but I think both of them are focused on B&H.
So Northern California wasn't really going as well as he expected. It was hard for him.
It's very tough because I think it just didn't have the mix. Wesco cut off a B&H product. Then we start to bring the new mix in, they call International Multi-Food.
So yeah, and I think, to give you guys a back history and maybe why Wesco would do something like that. I mean, why do you think Wesco would do something like that?
Well, I think they have their own distributor. They have their own, Wesco do both, manufacture and
distribute
too.
Right. So at a certain point, when he didn't have that Wesco mix to lean on because they cut him off and they decided to distribute themselves, it was really, really tough for him.
Yeah, I think, at that time it's tough time because, when when all these bakers get used to that mix, and now you tell them to switch it to another mix, a lot of people don't like it. It's not hard, if you know how to bake, understand the way to bake the yeast tray.
Right.
It's not hard at all.
Any mix. Yeah.
So I think went well. Didn't go well, up north because there's a lot of people only familiar with the Wesco products.
Right.
But a few friends that willing to switch, he decided to not to continue, to give up to Northern California. So
he thought maybe just running Southern California would be better.
And plus, he still live in Santa Ana in Southern California
at the time. So it was a lot of traveling back and forth.
So he talked to me, and I said, "Hey, you want to take over the Northern California? This is the time," because I decided to step back. And then I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I try it, and because I know a lot of people up north." Because I was built quite a few stores up north.
Right.
And I hope I can convince them to use the to the new mix from international multi-food product, international multi-food, have a complete line too.
Right.
Pastry, cake, buttermilk, old-fashioned, a complete line, chocolate cake. Yeah. So I took over, I believe it 1992. 92.
What was
92
your thought?
or 93, God, 92, I believe. Yes.
When you were a silent partner from the very beginning, did you ever think that this was ever going to be a possibility, that you were going to actually run a distributing company?
Yes, I did. I really interesting because I can see too. I can see the potential. It's so great in the future for supply to all of these Cambodian donut shop, because we speak the same language. I mean, we know the culture, and yeah, I really I was really interesting in that.
Even from the very beginning.
Even from the beginning. But I was so busy. I cannot do everything.
Right.
I'm just focused on the donut shop and at that time.
So it must have been kind of exciting to have that opportunity presented to you.
Yeah, I was exciting. I was exciting, and I'm ready for it. I'm willing to try it.
Presented with this opportunity, you said, okay, let's give it a shot. You were still living in Southern California at the time.
Yeah. And then I live in Walnut, and then and now I gonna have to drive to Northern California.
Yep.
I believe for 2 to 3 years. I driving from Southern California, leaving Sunday afternoon around 1 or 2 o'clock, drive all the way to Haywood. So I rent apartment in Haywood, and then stay there until Friday night after we close. Sometimes 5, sometimes 6 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock. It depends. And then drive back to Southern California, drive back home. Back and forth every single week.
You only stayed at home for like 1 day a week then?
1 day. Now back to, only 1 day. 1 day a week.
I guess maybe some people would listen to this podcast and listen to your story about how you were chasing the American dream and pushing as hard as you could, and how you didn't get to see your family a whole lot.
That's a sad part. After you getting older, you getting and then you think it back, you miss all of that. That's why sometimes you cannot just you have to sacrifice one thing to get one thing. So I think what I did is just I tried to chase my dream to get the strong financial. So then you really sacrifice the family. I didn't see a kid that much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the time, that probably didn't process in your head, though.
No.
At the time, you were so young and so passionate and so motivated. All you saw was another opportunity, and just let's do our best to chase it.
Well, I think that had to do with the way I raised in the old country too, the third world country. I never see my mom, my parents. Only see my mom and parents once a year, maybe the most twice a year, and they busy with their business and all of that, and that maybe. That's what I getting from too, because the culture, that's normal.
But you also felt lonely when they weren't around. And there was a point in the beginning,
yes,
where you did feel like, why did my parents leave me?
Yeah, I did. But then when I came to the state, and then I said, I realized that that's okay. But that's not okay.
This was a very, very powerful moment for me, because I didn't get to see my dad a whole lot growing up, and neither did my siblings. And for sure cannot be the only one out there who feel like they grew up with a little bit of resentment because they felt like their parents were absent for a good amount of their childhood. You know, I only saw my dad probably once a week at most, you know, and I do remember chunks of times where he'd be gone for just months at a time. And that was the way I grew up. I was heavily, you know, I felt like I was kind of raised by an only mom because he was never really around and work always came before the family, which, you know, is something that I'm dealing with through therapy, months and months of therapy. But beyond just therapy, I feel like sitting here and actually listening to my father look at me and say, in retrospect, now that I am older now, I can admit that maybe that wasn't the right way to go. And sitting here listening to him say that in words is really, really a different kind of feeling. It's very, very powerful. It's very healing. It's its own therapy in its own way. I just keep putting myself in the perspective of the listener, because at this point now we've covered all these episodes about how many businesses you've got yourself into, how many things you've grown and pushed the limits beyond, I think, so many people would even imagine. And sometimes I think, do you think that the Khmer Rouge and surviving that had a big effect on why you felt the need? It seems like you're just running this entire period.
Yes, it's how to do. I think, from your childhood too. I think, you always independent from the day I born, and then, and then you went through the Khmer Rouge, the labor camp, no food, and you don't have any option, and you don't even have a chance to leave. Sometimes you just
To dream.
Yeah. You can have dream, but it's just that dream in your heart, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got to the United States, oh my God, it just everything is freedom, everything is open. You do whatever you want to do. You want to chase your dream, it will happen. You can feel it, you can see it,
and it feels so good.
It feels so good. But then you forget one thing: it's your family. That's the sad part. But at that time, I didn't really.
You didn't really see that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty common for a lot of people. Maybe they don't see it until later on. But I think you're right. I think you're right. I think you do. I guess we only have so much time in the day.
Yeah, that's why, to answer your question, why all of these things here, I tried this and tried that and never have fear, and to try it, to chase it, and all of that. I think that's how to do with that. And how to do with that from your childhood, from whatever you went through, and from your hardship, through Khmer Rouge experience and all that. Now when you have a chance, why not?
And I think also that kind of fearlessness comes from the fact that you already know what it's like to starve. You already know what it's like to have nothing.
Yes.
And so all of this stuff is just, you're not afraid, because even if it does fail,
it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not worse than what
you've been through.
Yes. Yes.
I can imagine at that point taking over a distributing company. It's another level to you. Did you think that was the peak of your success?
No, you didn't know at that time. You just try the best you can. You try to learn and try to, the key thing here, you don't give up. Just continue to learn the best you can. What take to move this boat forward. And of course, have a lot of problem, a lot of things that you don't know. Then you just keep learning and keep going.
Yay! We have finally introduced B&H Bakery Distributors to you all. This is important because this is the very, very beginnings of Robert's, I guess, rise to the biggest thing that he's ever really done, which is manage a distributing company for bakery products. And also, I realized that maybe I've never said this out loud before, but that is what I am currently doing as my day job. Currently, I am, besides this podcast, taking over the family business B&H Bakery Distributors up in Northern California. That's where I am right now. So it all comes full circle at the end of this season. It would all lead back to good old moi, your host. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Take care. I will catch you guys next Sunday for another episode. Toodaloo.